We are winding down on this Friday, and remember that the Monday is a holiday, so the markets will be closed. Let's see how things are going over in the corn market. We've kind of had a ebb and flow here today, and now the July contract's down 9 3/4. The December's down 8 1/4 at 546 3/4. But that does leave us a couple of 3 pennies off the bottom for most of these contracts here. Going into the final little bit of trade today on the soybean market, we find July down 6 at 15.31 and November down 3 1/4, 13.75. Chicago wheat down 9 1/2 on the July, 6.66 3/4 of a penny. And of course, that is per bushel. Our live and instant quotes from bar chart say that July Kansas City wheat is down 12 cents right now. Minneapolis wheat went all the way up to 7.36. Fell back to 7.20 3/4 right now. We're up 3 1/2, but a wide trading range here, 26 cents or so. And then over in the cotton market today, we've had some weakness in this July and December contract. 26 lower in the July, only 1 lower in the December. Here with us now, Brian Hoops. Brian's with Midwest Market Solutions, and he joins us now to go over all of this. And Brian, anything that we can take away from today that we might be able to plug into what can come around on Monday night and going into Tuesday when we come back to work?
Yeah, right, John. It's good talk with you. We're going to see some volatility, I think, when we come back from this 3-day weekend. It seems like anytime we're closed for a couple days, you get this pent up energy, and we're seeing a lot of profit taking today. After our big move that we saw yesterday, a little pullback, I think, is to be expected. But then we start looking at weather for next week. Right now it's pretty much a beautiful forecast. Can't get much better for crops grown across the Midwest. There's some concerns up in Montana and northern the Dakotas, not only dryness concerns, but also frost damage to the winter wheat and some of the spring wheat crops and corn, where it could cause some damage. But we'll certainly be looking at that. But then next week we have another weekly EIA report. The last couple reports have been very, very bullish for the corn market. And then we've got a supply and demand report just a week later. So we'll start to see some positioning, I think, going into that report. And I have to think that the USDA is going to increase their corn exports, increase ethanol usage, and that could bode well for the corn market, especially the old crop contracts in that supply and demand numbers.
Brian, one more question then while we're on the topic of corn. Is that gap way down there in the 4s, is that the gorilla or the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about right at this point?
It almost feels like, we tried to go this week and test that area. We went down to $5 and bounced off of it. I think it's certainly possible once we get through pollination to go into that 480 area. But prior to pollination, I just can't see this market dropping off that far. We're kind of on edge right now about growing conditions. They're really good. This week has been pretty much a blessing of rain throughout most of the Midwest. Yeah. Except just for a few certain areas that have not benefited. So we've got to keep that rain showers moving through, and everybody knows that we're on edge this year to grow a massive crop to meet our demand.
Okay, we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. More of Brian Hoops coming up right after this. Well, I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast that this protein complex has had its share of ups and downs this week. Cattle market specifically today has been kind of back and forth. Let's see how we're winding things down here in about the last few minutes of trade. Live cattle, front months lower, the deferred months higher. June down 37, 115.97. Those August fats are at 75 lower, right at 118.67. But you go out to December and February, we are still kind of holding on to a little bit of a gain here. The feeder cattle market, all lower again, after having some of these contracts higher. August down 140, September down 105, October down 90. We'll come back and talk to Brian about that here in just a moment. But first, let's talk about hogs. June up $1.50, July up $2.45 at 119.15. Now, Brian, you take that July contract, the high of 119.70. Now, after today, if we would have another limit move, maybe on Tuesday, that would sure put us in that 120 area. How do you feel the market thinks about going up and trying that at this point?
Yeah, I think that's a huge task for this pork market to get above. 120 psychologically, we just have spent so little time in that area. But this market is supercharged with strong demand. You looked at our cutouts here at midday, big low count once again, higher product numbers. We're moving a lot of pork. We're shipping so much of it out as far as our export markets that any domestic demand at all is probably going to put us into that 120 or even mid 125 range. So, I think if you're a producer and you're looking at these price levels, you have to be looking at doing some sort of a window strategy or a fence strategy where you lock in the downside and leave your upside open. But you're probably getting limited as far as how much higher this market's actually going to go.
Okay, but where does that now leave the beef market? Because these futures have kind of stumbled around here all day today.
They sure have. It's kind of been a sloppy week, a very low volume type trade. So you don't have a lot of speculators coming into this market. They just don't want to be involved in choppy trades. They want to be in something that's a trending market like hogs, for example. This cattle market really needs to do some rebuilding of the technical trends, build up some momentum. All the action's been in the deferred contracts pushing those markets higher. We're struggling with these big supplies of cattle that we have over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And we'll have to see what Monday brings us when, even though that's going to be a market holiday, start out a brand new trade week. Brian, I tell you what, nice job. We're going to have you back tonight on the Rural Evening News. We're going to talk to you more then, get your thoughts as we get ready to launch into a long holiday weekend. All right, outside markets, let's look at those. We've got the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 123 points. Right now, it's at 34,560. The U.S. dollar here right now is really softened, 89.975. It's up only 16 points. Janet, there you go. That's the latest.